So for those of you who are already perhaps starting to do your own ESM studies, you may have already discovered that when it comes to measurement in ESM, it's something of a wild west. So ESM items, they don't undergo the same sort of development process as for your typical sort of self-report questionnaire. So if you think, for example, okay, I'd like to measure depression, I'll maybe use the Beck Depression Inventory, and you know that you can go and you can find the validation paper for that, you can find a manual for that questionnaire and information about scoring, and you will be able to find some degree of sort of similarity across multiple studies where they've used this questionnaire to assess this construct. This isn't really the same sort of process for ESM items. So they're often sort of passed along through generations of researchers and kind of adapted, sort of a bit like campfire stories. And so there is often sort of variable fidelity sort of across different studies in how they've measured particular constructs. Because as well, these questionnaires have to be very short. Sometimes we're assessing constructs using maybe 3 items, 3 on a good day or something, you know, if we've got a bit of space in the questionnaire, but sometimes even only 1 item, so single item measures. And this is sort of created some issues in terms of the lack of psychometric validity. So very few studies report information on the psychometric validity of their ESM items. I also include our own research in this as well, so I'm not throwing stones from glass houses here. This is definitely also something that we improve on as well. But for example, a review by Tim Troll and Uli Ebner-Prima from 2019 found that I think it was around 35%, only 35% of ESM studies on psychopathology in several leading journals actually reported any information on the psychometric validity. And when you think about that, and when you come to ESM from sort of another type of research background, that does seem quite eye-opening. Papers don't always as well sort of provide the exact item wording, or often because we generate such sort of large data sets with ESM, it's sometimes the case that we are only perhaps using, you know, a small number of the items or variables then from a whole study for one particular paper. And actually the context of the full ESM questionnaire is sometimes quite important when thinking about factors like participant burden and compliance. So we wanted to do something to address this, and we thought, well, a good place to start is just actually seeing what's out there and trying to collect these into one place where there's a sort of comprehensive overview of information about these ESM items. And so then we established the Esm Item Repository, which is an open bank of ESM items completely available for researchers to use, and these cover all sorts of different things, from psychotic experiences to mood to social interaction to sleep and physical activity. There's a whole range of different things in there. And the Esm Item Repository is a 3-phase project. So in phase 1, which is sort of a, I suppose, more overarching, ongoing phase, we are just really sort of collecting as many items as we can and producing a repository of these items. So this is what I call a sort of warts and all list, because it has only really undergone sort of basic quality control for sort of, you know, spelling errors or formatting errors or things like that. So we're not saying with the repository as it is now that these are like the gold standard of ESM items. But going forward, what we want to do then is to quality assess the items in the repository. Now, I don't know how many of you are sort of Malcolm in the Middle watchers, but we had a bit of a sort of Hal and the light bulb changing moment when we started this, because we thought, okay, let's go ahead and quality assess these items. And then after much sort of circling in the literature, we found that there wasn't really a quality assessment tool for ESM items. We're like, okay, right, so we need to develop a quality assessment tool in order to assess the items. And I'll tell you a bit more about that later on, but that phase is in progress now. And so then we can use this to evaluate the quality of items. So what we hope then in the second phase is we can start to say something about the quality level of the items in the repository. Going beyond that, what we'd also really like to do is to be able to do some psychometric validation of these ESM items, either through requesting data from item contributors, or as well, probably both of these actually, running our own empirical studies as well. And then when we sort of, our end goal here is really that we can generate probably multiple sets of high quality items that researchers can use with some degree of confidence. So what does the ESM item repository look like? It looks like this. So this is a Shiny app which was designed by our wonderful technological whiz Joram Kunkels from the University Medical Center Groningen in the Netherlands. And so it's a Shiny app, and you can search, for example, items by population. You think I'm doing an adolescent study, I want to look at items that have been used with adolescents, you can stick adolescent in there, and then you can see, for example, the item wording, what the original language was, so this was originally in Dutch, description of the item, which data set's in, how many times it was administered, which populations, and then the citation of reference for the item. And you can search by other criteria as well, like item description or data set. So far we've got just under 900 items in the repository from 5 countries. We've had more than 6,000 website visitors since we started. So if you're interested in moving forward and setting up your own ESM study, you're looking for items, then please check out the ESM Item Repository via the link here. Now, I mentioned before that we sort of, our hell on the light bulb moment, we realized that we needed to advance sort of quality assessment. We needed to build a quality assessment tool. And some of you may have seen this advert flying past on Twitter a while ago. So this was work led by Gudrun Eisele and Anu Higaranta, and they're busy writing this up at the moment. But we actually ended up doing a Delphi study to design a quality assessment tool. And Gudrun and Anu are very busy with the write-up of this at the moment, but I can certainly sort of give a small spoiler that it was a very interesting process. And although we did see agreement, we did find consensus on some aspects, it was really quite interesting to see the degree of heterogeneity in experts' responses. So more on that story later. If you're interested in finding out more about the repository, you can have a look at our website, and especially if you're interested in contributing, please check out the link to see how you can contribute your items to the repository, because we rely on you, we rely on contributions, and we would love to receive your item tributes if you would like to pass them on to us. Okay, so the